Hello, this is my Chapter 7 artifact. And first, just let me say, I'm sorry that all of these I have been like no makeup and hair not done, but that's when I do my homework, so here we go. Chapter 7 was about describing the ways to ensure the authenticity and trustworthiness of assessment data. Of course, there's formative assessment, the appraisal that provides necessary information to facilitate children's progress towards identified child outcomes. That's the definition from our book. It's concerned with both specific student learning and with the curriculum's responsiveness to the children's needs. It's my experience and through studying the things in this class that's kind of like the gold standard for assessment, because it's the best type of assessment data for a teacher is the kind that can influence instruction immediately. And I know that that's one of the negatives when it comes to standardized testing. There's two major steps in analyzing and interpreting assessment information. One is ensuring the authenticity and trustworthiness of the data, and then two, understanding what it means. And this has to do with all the different criteria or variables that go into the assessment. It kind of goes back to the beginning, like know what you're assessing and why you're assessing it, and then what are you going to do with that information. Teachers work to make assessment reliable, valid, fair, and adequate. And some of the ways that they do that, they need to make sure there are enough samples, that the samples are representative of what's being assessed. Samples are balanced and come from different sources, methods, and contexts. The evidence is obtained in different ways, and that it comes together to make a whole picture. The information is consistent over time, sources, context, and methods. And then I liked that this chapter pointed out recognizing patterns and patterns of what doesn't show up. So that was something that I had never thought about in terms of assessment before. It's just I'm always so focused on what the checklist is and what I'm trying to do and what I'm going to do with that data that I appreciated the fact that it said pull back and look and see for what isn't there. Or is there a pattern in what isn't there? And then that evidence corresponds to reality. And then when you're going from documenting children's actions to interpreting what they mean, to use some safeguards to maintain the quality and trustworthiness. And I think this whole chapter was about teaching us to protect the child by preserving the data and preserving the information and the way that that information is presented and used in their education. So we need to make sure to monitor their progress and then compare their performance 2 or more times. Work from compilations and summaries. Look for patterns, including patterns of errors, is what I was talking about, rather than isolated instances. Consider the child's pattern of development, their temperament, their interests, their approaches to learning. Identify areas of concern, interpret and understand the meaning of the assessment findings, and then generate multiple hypotheses and possible meanings, but hold them tentatively. So, again, it's the core of teaching, right? It's all about reflection. We need to reflect on what they're learning, on what the assessment data is telling us about what they're learning, but we also need to see the whole picture. So it's big picture and reflective process. And then it talked about, which I appreciated this, some of the most important information about children and their achievement may be difficult to document, such as motivation, drive for mastery, willingness to expend effort, and family support and encouragement. And those are definitely core components to a child's educational success. And we need to, I guess as an effective educator, we would recognize those criteria and take them into account in terms of how we interpret the data, how we share the data with the people that need it, the parents, or if there's an IEP situation, that it's all part of the picture, it's the whole picture. And then to keep a broad view of the child is important. Analyzing their performance within how they're functioning. Is there an error in measurement? Is there a variation in development and learning? What's the nature of the developmental process? And remembering that their development is dynamic, and then the influence of the amount and nature of the assistance. So again, that's that big picture view of all that encompasses a child. And once again, this chapter to me just reinforces the core of my educational philosophy, which is it all but comes down to relationship. We have to have a relationship with the child, a relationship with the family, and in doing that, we can be the best educator that we can be. Thanks.